Guess how much cash Disney has? Just all of it.
Wait a minute. How much?
10.3 billion.
Doing financial.
Oh my God.
So
did he have it right?
Well, Disney's got 3 to 6 weeks of liquidity cash on hand, given their annual revenues.
Because again, I continue to remind folks, there's really not much life for Disney films after they leave the theater because Disney is constantly consuming their own product. They're going on to Disney Plus, which is now $13 billion roughly in the hole. And the issue is that Disney is going to be in a position where Comcast can force the put on them come January for the remainder of Hulu. Comcast still owns 33% of Hulu. There's a minimum contractual valuation on that of $27 billion. So that means that Comcast, at the very least, is going to get $9 billion or so from the Walt Disney Company to buy out that remaining share. People think that, oh, well, Comcast will buy it from Disney. No, that ain't going to happen. Comcast is in the catbird seat. They have all the power at this point. Comcast Universal wants more than $9 billion. Disney, of course, wants to just pay the $9 billion. The problem at this point, if you're the Walt Disney Company, think back to all of these deals in the past. How do they typically work with companies of this market scale? Disney's worth about $160 billion or so in market cap right now based on what their current share price is. They had a valuation of share of market cap, not that long ago that was substantially higher, closer to $200 billion. When they bought Fox, when they bought Pixar, when they bought Marvel from Ike Perlmutter, when they bought Lucasfilm from George Lucas, what did all those deals involve? They involved a heavy dosage of Walt Disney Company treasury-owned stock, meaning shares of Walt Disney that the Disney Company itself held in treasury themselves, right? When people ask about what happened to the dividend, like Lorena always asks about when we go to earnings calls, why aren't they paying a dividend again? Well, they're not paying a dividend right now. They don't want to announce a dividend again because they know, I think, they're going to have to use a significant portion of Walt Disney Company treasury stock to affect the purchase of the remaining portion of Hulu from Comcast. If Disney Company stock is still worth $90 a share come January of next year, that means they're going to have to fork over a lot more shares than if the Disney stock was worth, say, a nominal level of $120 a share. That's a big difference. That's 30% fewer fewer or lesser in the valuation than at 120.
That and there's no guarantee that it doesn't continue to drop.
Exactly.
This could get worse.
That's the problem, is that Disney right now is looking at, well, crud, if, we'd like to buy Hulu, let's say the purchase price is $10 billion and they want to effect a sale where they use $5 billion in cash and $5 billion in Disney stock. Well, to get $5 billion in Disney stock, you have to fork over a lot more shares at $90 a share than you would at $120 a share. That's predicament number one. Predicament number two is that they also have to have the cash to affect the other portion of that sale. And if they have box office returns that are not doing that well, if that third-party licensing is gone, if they're not taking write-downs on things like Willow, for example, on Disney Plus, where they basically devalue the asset value of certain properties, those 50 things that they're going to now devalue, right, to basically shrink the losses, to enhance the balance sheets, at least in somewhat of a phantom level. Now, all of it's perfectly legal. You can do this, right? Mike can speak more fluently on this than I can. But,
before Mike jumps in here, I'd just like to point out, according to the Q2 earnings report, guess how much cash Disney has, just all of it, on hand?
I'd have to go back and pull it up, but go ahead, Jonas.
10.3 billion. That's it.
I knew it was around that 8 to 12. I remember it was in there somewhere.
Wait a minute. How much?
10.3 billion. Am I reading this right?
I don't know what you're reading. I didn't realize it was that low.
Current assets, April 1st, 2023.
Well, current assets, you need to look at like M1. You need to look at liquidity. You need to look at cash, Receivables. Well, Mike, you take it away. You can speak.
Yeah,
better.
cash receivables, another liquidity. Well, let's just say it is.
I'm going to put this in the private chat, and you can.
All right,
check
let me take a look at it because
while you guys are looking at that, I also want to and I want to get your take. I want to ask a question though, and this may help in the response. As you answer, Mike, when Iger came out and said that essentially they're buying Hulu, despite the fact that negotiations are ongoing, did he lessen his leverage by doing so and the leverage of the company?
I'm looking at a stock report. I can't answer a question at the same time.
Take that one.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it had really that big of an impact because I think Wall Street, I think the analysts are already pretty much well aware that Disney is going to be the one to have to affect the sale, that Comcast is going to force the put, and the puts are options contracts. I'm doing.
Oh my God!
So
did he have it right?
Holy shit, Jonas!
I'm scrolling down. Balance sheet.
All right, here's the deal. Let me try to explain this to the people. People might be like, "Well, it sounds like a lot of money." Well,
we need to pull this up.
Let me finish. If the 6 months ended April 1st, 2023 is 45 million, and let's just say for shits and giggles, we're going to round up and say that annual revenues are about 100 billion, right?
What page are you on, Mike?
I'm on page right now. I'm on page 1, which is the 6 months ended revenues.
Okay.
Right.
I was looking for balance sheet.
Okay, we'll go to that's on 17. So 17 is the balance sheet, but I'm just saying, just hear me out, Valiant. If we've got 6 months revenues at 45 bill, and we multiply, just say we double that and give them some gravy at 100 billion, right? Okay, what that means is that in terms of cash on hand, you take that, you basically take that, take it and divide by 12, right? And take that $100 billion, right? Divide by 12, and I got. Jesus Christ, these motherfuckers only have cash on hand on any given month between 4 and 6 weeks.
That's what I'm saying.
Disney as a company has total liquid cash of depending on the revenue of the quarter, depending whether we go with the 45 number or we double it and give them 100. If we take their annual revenues, their cash on hand is it will average between 3 and 6 weeks at any given time. Holy fuck. Oh my God.
I guess we know why they're cutting content and trying to get some money out of that.
Jesus Christ, VR. Think about that for a second. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what does this mean? Here's what it means.
Here's the important thing. Before you say that, I was correct that it's 10 point. Well, it's actually 10.4.
Oh, that's the important part that you were right.
That's the important part. Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to do the math. The fact of the matter is that they you know that old saying that in your household you want to have 3 to 6 months of cash on hand for emergencies. We've all heard that, right?
Yep.
In financial planning, you want to have 3, right, Melanie? You've heard that, like 3 to 6 months of grocery money, rent money, car payments, all that stuff, right?
Emergency fund.
Right. Well, Disney's got 3 to 6 weeks of liquidity cash on hand given their annual revenues.
Wow.
Does this sound, I hate to sound like a weirdo asking this. Okay, the way the timing is with the Cannes Film Festival and all the articles coming out and the embargo being lifted, do you think that was pretty much a way to set up KK for the fall? I'm saying this is a hypothesis because it seems like after hearing how much money they have and how Disney's Indy is not doing that well and flopping Mermaid is on the horizon, do you think this is an Iger push to just put everything on her the way they put everything on Chapek?
There's some speculation to that, Pro. I know you talked about that before. What you got?
Well, I think that she was. Okay. So Iger went to the Cannes Film Festival for the very first time in his career. Now he's had, gosh, 35 years of opportunities to go, and this is the year he goes. And it's at the same time that she goes into the theater with really bad news, and she comes out with really bad news. Yet he's there, having fun with her. I honestly think that this was an opportunity to hit her with the bad stuff while he's there partying it up. He was allegedly there till 1 a.m. There was also a reporter that came up to him and said, "Hey, we gave a good review to Indy," and he said, "Whew, that's a big load off. I was really concerned." He doesn't say that about movies. I mean, that's not what your CEO says about films when you come and say you gave a good review.
That was in the same article.
I think honestly, it's to coddle this. Yeah, I think it's to coddle her out of this position. But I want to go back to this money situation.
Yes.
Do we know historically How much does the Walt Disney Company usually operate with? I don't know the answer to
Well,
that.
you can see here, if we go back year over year or quarter over quarter in this case, October 1st, 2022, they had 11.6 billion cash and cash equivalents, another 12.6 billion in receivables. It's not terribly dissimilar from what they reported at the end of April.
I wish we had on hand the pre-pandemic stats. That's really what I would like to.
Well,
Q3
we can go back
2020, they had 23 billion.
Yeah. So they burned a lot of cash. I mean, I knew it was a significant amount. And my point is that if this continues to hold as it has for the past 6 months, right? In theory, if they did a 50-50 split.
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
Yeah. To where they would have to consume treasury stock and cash, which is almost assuredly what's going to wind up happening. They're not going to pay for this whole thing in cash. And when I say cash, some of that could also be levered, right? Lines of credit, they borrow, they float a corporate bond. Of course, ones that wouldn't be issued under false pretenses by Reedy Creek as munis.
Darn it.
Damn it. Yeah, I beat you to it. I knew where you're going with that one. So the point is that they know that they have, again, at minimum $9 billion. Of course, Comcast is going to come in hot with, you know what? We want more. Now, of course, some of the deal could be stipulated. This is why we're seeing now the big signal was Disney wants to combine Hulu and Disney Plus with a unified login. They want to start commingling, at least ostensibly from what they're saying, commingling the brands, commingling some of the content that is delivered through those streaming platforms. And in that end, it suggests that obviously Disney already has designs. They know that this put is going to be stuck on them. They're going to have to buy it. And I think they want to buy it anyway. Hulu is certainly more lucrative, financially speaking, in terms of revenue because it's strong advertising presence, right? Ad dollars, real third-party revenue coming in, much stronger than Disney Plus.
So
It's
I
a
ask
good
you,
thing for them? Yes.
because I've got like 7 minutes here. I got to go on the hour, and I really want to make this the clip tomorrow about Disney's cash problem here. So what are the solutions here? So first of all, how much stock in Disney becomes a problem for Comcast from an antitrust standpoint?
It's not there really is not going to be an antitrust standpoint because even the stock we're talking about, you know, a couple of percent of Disney at best, right? We're not exceeding this 10% super major issue here with, we're talking about maybe 3 or 4 times the amount that a Nelson Peltz would have. We're talking about maybe slightly more than a Lucas or a Perlmutter would have received in their buyout. Perlmutter allegedly has, I think, $3 billion worth of Disney stock. That's like 2%. That's a significant ownership stake in a company that size, but we're still not rocking the boat, right? We're still not BlackRock that has 8 to 9% or a Vanguard. We're not in that league of an institutional, but it's still something that has to be noteworthy and registered with the SEC, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission.
And so they have
Apple still owns a significant portion of Disney stock, right? From the Pixar purchase. I mean, that's Apple still owns a big chunk of Microsoft. Microsoft owns a big chunk of Apple. That's never been an issue from that standpoint because they're not a majority holder.
So from a revenue standpoint, they have the parks, which are a constant cash revenue machine. Even though they're hurting, they're still operating.
They're slipping.
They have this movie that has already been paid for. They will have amounts due on Indiana Jones for sure that have not all been paid yet. But they still have to spend $100 million marketing it, and they still they're not going to make the amount of money that they need to make on this movie to make it profitable.
They need $1 billion.
So
it's crazy.
So is it possible that this coming Little Mermaid might actually be the opposite of the Disney Renaissance and instead sink the company?
It could. I mean, if not Little Mermaid, I think that has a better chance, far better chance than Indiana Jones, and here's why.
Guys, give me just a second. I'm looking up something. Valiant, go ahead. I'm going to pull up something that's way more concerning. I'll put it in private chat in just a second.
I was just going to say real quick. I mean, Little Mermaid obviously still can engender a lot of, ex-theatrical revenue streams, meaning that even though and I guess I'll pull this up since I'm about to bring it up.
I know we need to wrap up, but I've put in this may be the way to wrap up. If you see this article that I've got in the private chat regarding Pixar, their next film.
Yikes.
And
Elemental, yeah, looks terrible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all know that Strange World was a flop among flops. I mean, it is just, it's unbelievable that Disney had a movie come out and make that little over Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Elemental is tracking.
I have another angle to put a cherry on the sundae of this, and I don't often do this, but I have it on incredibly good authority. We can talk about this offline if you want tomorrow, Pro or Valiant. But I got an incredibly credible message that your theory, Pro, is 100% correct from your everything, all this, your observations this past week.
Talking about Kathleen Kennedy?
I have it on, and I'm just going to say this. This is a source that I know well, known a long time, and has not been wrong on all kinds of other stuff that they've given me that I've just held to myself and waited for it to be revealed by one channel or another, like yours, like Valiant's, like, Midnight Edge, whoever. And I'm dropping it now because it just came to me within the last hour and a half. And when I stepped away, I was trying to confirm it. And your theory is correct, sir. At least that's what I have. I
think she's gone between October of this year and
this is something that this type of stuff happens and I hold on to it, but I'm not holding on to it because this is an incredibly reliable source and your theory is 100% on point. Sir.
Let's record tomorrow on that, Mike.
All right.
My goodness, look at this. Sorry. This is just. I cannot believe the situation that they're. It makes sense now why Bob Iger is so flustered on every front.
Yeah.
He's making all these horrible calls on Reedy Creek.
It's a big problem for him. They're lashing out. They know that, and again, if this Comcast situation with Hulu was not going to be forced upon them here in the next, 8 months ish, I think there'd be a very different story. I think there's a lot of lashing out and desperation at this point. They know the theme parks are losing right now. They've not lost, but they're losing. They're in the process of losing to Universal Studios, especially with Epic Universe coming online here. And Universal, of course, is accelerating the timetable for which this is going to be launched. The Magic Kingdom itself is the last vestige of supremacy for Walt Disney in Orlando in terms of attendance. And that is, that's a short ways away from being taken down as well, especially once Epic Universe opens. All of this is problematic for Disney when they're doing write-downs on things like these Lucasfilm properties for Disney Plus. When Disney Plus itself is $13 billion in the hole, we're seeing everything that we just talked about, right? This is kind of an act of desperation because the last thing Disney needs right now is what's about to happen to them in the next 6 to 8 months. They don't have a choice. They're going to have to bite the bullet and buy out this other share of Hulu, even if they buy it out and then in a supreme act of desperation, then maybe try to turn around and sell it to somewhere else. That's possible, but I don't think it's very likely.
Maybe they can sell it to Hearst because they like to do business with
Wall
Hearst.
Street's getting nervous. I think that's why they downgraded them. And again, no financial advice here. This has nothing to do with any of that. We're just observing facts or observing what's being reported out there. And Disney has put themselves in this position. They've made a lot of electively stupid decisions, especially with third-party licensing. This is why I continue to say I think Universal is the smartest studio in Hollywood right now because they are bolstering their own proprietary streaming service, but they're not dying on the hill of that streaming service, Peacock. They are still continuing to license those products out to places like Amazon Prime and Netflix. Going back to Fast X, where we started tonight, why they're doing what they're doing, because those third-party licensing contracts are so incredibly financially lucrative that it's bolstering Universal's balance sheet while they're in a very aggressive expansion mode with theme parks.
They could really use that $10 billion to just further smother the Disney company.
Yeah, what do you think Universal's going to do with that?
That's another reason they might not be interested in stock.
Disney doesn't want to pay dividends right now. We got to hand over $5 billion of Disney stock to Universal here in the next 6 to 8 months. Of course, they're not going to announce dividends. They don't have the cash reserves right now to support going back into dividend mode. And they damn sure, basically, they're going to be giving Universal an extra pile of juice when they give them their stock if they're paying dividends again. They're going to wait till after that's gone. They can shore up the balance sheet, get the cash on hand, the M1 money supply, that most liquid portion of asset, M1, and then they'll go back. Eventually, I know they want to get back to dividends, especially as a big Dow 30 component, which Disney is. But that's going to take time. Bob Iger's been on a spending spree now for a decade, and it's them chickens coming home to roost, y'all.
Renegade on